You think we can use that? I don't know if we can use that.
I mean, it'll be audio from the phone picking up.
Shitty.
Let's go again. Let's start it off again.
It's 11:30. How are we feeling?
I mean, we only got 2 albums to review.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be better the second time because y'all know what y'all gonna say.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Secret House.
Okay.
Take 2.
Good catch, Jet.
What's up?
Fuck yeah.
We
slipping.
were talking about the Mavi laughing so hard it hurts for the past 15 minutes.
I don't think it was that long. I think it was 10, probably like
10 minutes.
Maybe 7.
7. Okay.
What do you think? 7?
Yeah,
Nah, it couldn't have been that long, right?
And
okay.
we
long enough.
were not recording.
Yeah,
I'm going to blame Mega, as I always do, in
is
all
my
of
fault.
life's problems.
Blame Canada.
That's right.
And
I apologize for all of it.
Let's bring us in, Mega. Bring us in.
Okay,
Who are we?
I mean,
what are we doing?
first and foremost, man, welcome back to the Secret House. Please like, subscribe, and share. We appreciate all of you that do that, and even the ones that don't. Thanks for tuning in. We got Spade back again this week.
Yes.
Thanks for checking out the open mic joint. We just wanted to get you guys some content. We couldn't all get together, but today we're here, and we're recording 2. So, this video will come out first, and then after that, we're going to be doing the Ka album. So today we're talking about Mavi and I think it's his sophomore, his second official LP, full length joint, Laughing So Hard It Hurts. It is a 38-minute project with 16 songs from Mavi out of Charlotte, North Carolina. And the way that we usually like to start these things is by talking about the artist. So I will completely reiterate all the things that I just said about my familiarity with Mavi. I've been a fan of his since at least 2019 when I stumbled across or was put on to Let the Sun Talk. I thought he was pretty dope. He also works within that kind of ecosystem of MCs that I fuck with, the underground, weird, experimental guys. Also, he was on an Alchemist album, so that kind of shows you his kind of trajectory. And I think he's touring with Jack Harlow now, which I've never heard a Jack Harlow song before, but from what I understand, he's gaining success. There's an upward trajectory, over 1 million listeners monthly on Spotify, and I'm a big fan. I especially liked the EP that he dropped last year, End of the Earth. That one was really dope, and I do enjoy his music. What about you?
Casual fan. I like Let the Sun Talk quite a lot. Probably landed just outside of my top 10 rap releases for 2019. And I probably would have even gone up if I'd listened to him more. He's accessible and fun, but he's also weird with it, and he's like a student of the art form. I think he's technically a very proficient rapper. I like that he's got this, he comes with all kinds of weird styles, less so on this album. I'd say I'm a casual fan.
I'm just a guy who heard of the guy, but never really listened to a project. So, maybe heard the one-off song on some other projects, but it's my first time diving in.
I feel like we really got it off better that first time, but we doing it again. It's like I don't want to re-say the same shit that I just said. You know what I mean? But no, I like Mavi's style a lot. Earlier work let's go right into the album. Yeah. Right. Earlier work had kind of this really almost like struggling to get it out, but like almost exasperated, almost kind of breathy style where and like I said, it doesn't have like that poor breath control sound to it, but it was interesting, and it was one of the things that made him an interesting listen, on top of his complex and interesting word choices and word combinations, because he does put together and use a lot of different poetic devices. So I really do like his work, and for this album, I feel as though that it's a good second coming. It's a good project. His maturity is there. He's a young cat. I think he's still in college, or maybe he dropped out of college. I know he was going to Howard University for like neuroscience.
HBC. Really?
Yeah, man. Huh. He's a young, smart cat and really thoughtful. And I thought that this project kind of highlights a lot of those things. There's a, like I said earlier, kind of a bit of a cohesion because of the repeated production credits on this. I feel like it's a similar palette, and I do think that the title is kind of apt, Laughing So Hard It Hurts, because there were a lot of songs on this that are like about like a heartbreak and about kind of his experiences. And I think that the album, it just sounds really good. I want to get past this part so I can start thinking differently, because I feel like reiterating all that shit
everything we said
is not like, I feel like I want to rush through that part.
I haven't said anything, so I'm straight.
You know what I mean? Yeah, word. But I do like this project. I'm trying to frame things in a good, bad, and ugly way for the reviews, instead of jumping around and then giving a rating. We said earlier,
Sure.
we're going to get rid of the rating system. We like to think of ourselves as having more of conversations about albums and actually reviewing them or ranking them. Like, this is hip hop conversations. So yeah, man. There's a lot of songs that I really like on this. I think it opens pretty strongly with Hi John. I like that opening line, praying they still make love in my size. The Doves is really dope. It kind of reminds me of some old Flylo, like 2010 production. My favorite 3-song run has got to be My Good Ghost, Reason, and Hemlock, which are really dope. I like the production a lot on Reason. That's done by Overcast. I'm waiting for his album his next album to release, because he's a really dope MC. And man, I wrote down a lot of lyrics and such, but I guess I'll get to those later. I've never heard of a lot of the producers on this album before. Angelo Leroy, Jacob Rochester, and Kevin Long. Dil Vinci, I think is the name. It's spelled like D-Y. Dil Vinci, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Wolf Morpheus is on this, he's really dope. I'm familiar with him. But yeah,
Monte Booker's on there as well, right?
I quite enjoy the listen, and that's what aside from a bunch of lyrics and maybe getting more into some of the track meanings, that's kind of my takeaway from it. I do think that Mavi's matured on this album some, but it also kind of sounds like maybe it's almost maturing towards a demographic of listeners that I might not be a part of. It's not as experimental to me as his previous work, and I feel like his flow, while maturing, is a bit more metered and a bit. It's not that he uses less poetic devices, but it seems a little bit more organized in his approach.
You want to get this off, Jet, before I go?
What, you just gonna go jump straight to the bad?
No. I mean, you want to go? Go ahead, man.
No, this album grew on me a lot. I didn't really care for it on my first listen. I think a lot of the better elements of the lyricism went over my head. The production on here is good, but I don't love it. It kind of feels like when they make a sequel to a video game you like, with a higher budget, and it's
Metal
better.
Gear.
Like
Metal Gear?
Metal Gear.
You said that last time. I tried to take credit for it.
Metal Gear Solid 2 is one of my favorite games of all time.
Oh, okay.
But it's like the Twin Snakes. Like, they accidentally made it way easier by adding like a bunch of features from a different game to it. And yeah, I mean, it's fine. It's still good. I do enjoy this album a lot.
I think so too.
But I do miss some of those rough edges that you saw on Let the Sun Talk, some of the weirder production, some of the parts where it wasn't just like a 4/4 rap beat, or where Mavi's like struggling to, not struggling, but he's really like getting everything off in a very raw and kind of emotional cadence that is mostly gone from this record. But all in all, I dug this one. I like a lot of the production on here. Opportunity Kids is my favorite track on the album, and it's by far the most different track of the bunch, and I kind of wish we'd gotten more in that vein.
It kind of reminds me of that joint off of Frank, the Madlib joint, because it's like but it does stand out as being really different than some of the more kind of like mellow.
It's like a
production
psych rock
kind of,
sample or something that's been chopped up a certain way. I do appreciate Mavi's ability to rap on like very choppy, Soulquarian-esque production to like very polished, clean, drum-oriented melodic production, and the way he can kind of flip back and forth between the two, sometimes even on the same track, is very dope to me. I feel all in all pretty positive about this record.
All right, let me get this off. It ain't gonna make sense until I get the whole thought out, guys. So work with me, cook with me for a second. It's okay, this album, but for me, it doesn't work as an album. As an album, not really good. It's meandering. It's all over the place. Sonically, it sounds like the first 4 tracks was mixed by somebody different than the rest of it. At times, his vocals sit way above over the track, and I'm struggling to hear the beat, which I guess could be a positive for some of you guys. But I don't know, man. I can hear all the S-ing, like get a de-esser on some of that stuff.
You have a really refined ear when it comes to that type of production engineering, and that I think that a majority of us don't notice those
like
things.
It's those little things.
I kind of noticed those first 4 tracks too sounded a little bit.
Sound like somebody different mixed them. It's like it sounded like different. I look for a sense of cohesion. There we go. Cohesion.
Vocabulary from the South.
Cohesion with the whole thing. It seems like these tracks were mastered separately to me, because some of them just sound differently. Like a different person got on it and had different choices. That's why I try to like mix all my stuff myself and master it all myself, because I have a particular sound. For this one, it's like some of them just jumped out at me like, ooh, that doesn't sound good. But a la carte, this album is awesome. This is a playlist album. Like if you can take like 2 or 3 songs out of this and just put it
to something else.
Yes, it would be awesome.
That's how I felt about that Fly Low joint. It's like this could be on something from like you could play an old Fly Low set and then throw that song in there and it would work out just fine. I think.
Right.
So trying to detach what he gave me versus what I feel like it should have been, as is, the project is good. It's okay. It's nothing. There's no really stand out about this project. But overall, it's a good project. I can't say anything bad about his flow, although at times enunciation is a problem. You kind of lean a little into that mumble rap thing. I guess that's your southern sensibility, being from Charlotte. But you do have a southern cadence at times, and I struggled to try to hear some of the words like you're mumbling them out. And enunciation along with your breath control. You talked about like him having breath control problems in the beginning. I can tell because some of them are still here now. I'm just like, ooh, you're kind of struggling to force your words out, my guy. But overall, not a bad album. It just is a complete project. I didn't like it.
Not to like disagree per se, but I do actually really dig how, because of the way he raps and also how sometimes he'll just be like barring and then he'll like drop some like real knowledge like in there, and I think every now and then he'll say something I'm like, yo, that's super dope, and I want to go back and like check those out, and there's a lot of like gold to like pick from that that I was into.
Definitely. That's one of the standout points.
And he's got some really beautiful lyricism on there as well. Like sometimes he gets very poetic with it.
I especially like Mavi's writing style. He's one of those MCs that if you try to anticipate his next bar, you'll often be wrong about it. And also he has an unorthodox rhyming style that's not as like clearly packed, multisyllabic. Yeah, like he'll go off on assonance a lot.
Doom-esque. Like
right. And it's like one of the things that I really also like about the album is that he is so young, but there's a lot of kind of like he's done a lot of introspection to see who he is as a person, and he's trying to figure that out. And there's a lot of black love on this album. There's also the parts that kind of miss me are the heartbreak type of songs, because I guess it doesn't hit for me.
To be expected, he's young though,
right? You know what I mean? Like I've always, even when I was young, I kind of just didn't care about guys like that.
Yeah, we were toxic, though, that's why.
Word indeed. But some of these, like the joints where he's talking about like, heartbreak or whatever, they hit for me. But this album is actually got a lot of, I didn't count, but I feel like there's a lot of songs that are about his relationships with women and how he navigates them and the problems he's had. I don't really care for those, but those little bars that you can pick out from him through his really incredible approach to rhyming are great, bro. Like the pain hit deeper when your people ain't in reach no more, because greed would feed him more. And it's like, I wrote down so many lyrics from this album. And I just like it. I felt like I was missing some of the kind of randomness to it, or in an intensity or an experimental.
It totally lacks intensity. Yeah. Like I said, it becomes meandering after a while because all the tracks start to blend in and sound the same.
Yeah.
So I'm totally with you, and that's like goes to the cohesion point you were saying. It all sounds alike, but just sonically it sounds different. But overall, not a bad project, but there's room for growth, I think. And once again, I'm taking consideration. You said he's young.
I'm wondering.
Sense.
I'm wondering where the growth is going, because like the last project is very strange compared to this, and with his numbers reaching a certain level, a lot of times, especially artists who are trying to navigate that, they push towards. I feel that way about Earth Gang. They push towards a more kind of performance-based album approach, where they want their shows, because they're making the most money off their shows when you're that big.
Yeah.
And so they push towards like making those type of tracks. And this is not that, but it almost has like a crossover sensibility that would reach a demographic that is not so into the experimental.
Although I also think that Mavi is like introspective and thoughtful enough, and just plain old intelligent enough that he's definitely thought about all of this.
Word.
I don't think we're going to be hearing a J. Cole album coming out of Mavi anytime soon, you know?
Please. I want to hear about your laundry.
I think he's definitely, you know.
Hey, but if this goes double platinum, he ain't got no features, right? Hey, shout out to Mavi.
No, I think he's too interesting to go like completely in this. I'm not going to say necessarily
also
mainstream.
His contemporaries are different.
His contemporaries are different, and the people around him are generally pretty dope. And I can't see. Yeah. I think he's definitely interested in skirting that balance between the weird and experimental and kind of the unrefined, and then his more kind of refined, million streams touring with Jack Harlow.
Don't get that from this album though. The production is really mainstream to me. Like the drums,
yes,
clean production, and it's okay. It's not like anything standing out. That's I think the flaw of this album. All the production is just right middle of the road, man. There's nothing like intense, which I would like to hear a little bit more intensity, like you said on this album. Something to give me, I ain't gonna say a slapper, but a mid-level slapper. And there's actually no real lows on this album either. There's nothing.
It is very low. Mid-tempo, but I do think maybe you should give the production a bit more credit, because I think
some of it is really.
So some of the sampling on there is really cool.
Interesting.
I like the way that it's like. It would, like I said, it'll go from chopped to kind of DAW, like very crafted beats.
It's not bad, but it's the same. That's what I'm saying. It gets stale after a while. After you hear like the sixth song, that sounds like the first song.
I did kind of not to agree or disagree with either of your points, but I did kind of have that same kind of feeling. Like I'm like, what song is this again? Like the songs that I really like, I recognize them. But then as I was making my notes today, I was like, which is the song that has that flow?
I
which one was that?
Definitely remember like getting towards the end of the track and being like, man, this is a long album, and then like checking, and I was only 33 minutes into it. And I'm like, oh, okay, maybe not. Just because there is a lot packed into this record. Sonically and lyrically.
I think one of the things that adds kind of to the a little bit like amorphous tone of the album is that the tracks all kind of point to the same things that he's talking about. There, like I said, there's a lot of black love. There's a lot of him finding himself. There's a lot of pain from missing a girl, or the growth that he's had because of the friends that he left behind, or the approach of trying to figure out and navigate his life as an artist. All of the tracks kind of, you could probably take 3 out of 4 of those and find bars for that on each song. So it's a little bit, you get a little bit lost in it. And one of the lines that stood out to me, especially because I'm back on my sobriety tip, is at the end of the album on Chinese Finger Trap, he says, finally sober, and it's just another layer of lonely. And I wonder if that sobriety is one of the reasons that he's kind of
changed his style.
I mean, it's a natural thing that comes. Like when I go out, when I'm drinking, I'm a different person. To a degree, I'm like elevated with my hostility. Person, I'm louder. I'll ramble about shit that I'll argue shit that I don't even care about arguing about when I'm on one. But for him, I don't know how that affects his art. But for me, as a listener, I was kind of trying to do the calculus to see why I didn't love this album as much as I. Like my anticipation for his next project was very high, and I do enjoy the album a lot. But
this is his second album, right?
It's a second
It's
full
always
length.
a sophomore slump. It's always that.
Tapes and an EP.
Because he's finding his way. So I can see that now. It's sophomore slump. It's never going to be as good as the first album. So this one is a give me album. So I look forward to the third album because he's going to really refine and find some ways. And once again, a la carte, if you just gave me Baking Soda, Quiet on Set, and Hemlock,
Fucking
It'd been awesome.
Reason is so hard though. He starts off, he says, I hope when I get into heaven, God hand me a blunt.
Yeah.
And then some runts.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We on some communist shit, so these niggas is stuck.
Yeah, that
when
was
I
kinda
ask for
dope,
a
yeah.
cut. And his flow, like, the moonbeams can't say I pursue dreams because I don't sleep. Like, he's just like so many of the I don't got workers, just brethren. Hell yeah, we hiring felons. We all get breachy. Like, there's so many, just like when I listen, like as I'm talking about the album as a whole, I'm kind of just like, okay. But when I get into those
A la
single
carte.
songs,
A la
that's
carte,
when I'm
yeah.
like, bro, I've listened to Reason a lot. I've listened to that 3-song run, My Good Goes, Reason, and Hemlock a lot. And it's the main reason that I don't put the songs on repeat. I kind of just go there and just let it run through. And then by the time that I get to the other joints, I'm like, okay, it's time to I gotta review another album. So I better go listen to this shit. Yeah, but overall, you know, I'm still a big fan of Mavi. I still think that he's one of the more interesting younger artists who are making their way. It's really incredible to see his success. Again, I don't know a Jack Harlow, but I know that he's a white rapper who got a lot of people
You okay?
like talking about him.
Yeah, I like
he's
that.
one of those things like I probably never get to it. You know what I mean?
You won't. You won't.
But I do really I especially love how in this day and age to have youth like him in Red Veil, these young cats who are navigating life differently without going the kind of trap route or the drug route, which is so oversaturated within the airwaves and within what I would just say like that amorphous kind of black hip hop listening community. It's good to have that, man. I mean, we just had, you know what I mean? Takeoff was murdered last night on some real senseless shit.
Yeah,
and for a cat like Mavi, man, I can only champion a guy who is insightful enough to have these type of bars where he's very clear about what he wants in life, and not necessarily what the destination is, but he knows that the destination ain't back that way with the problems that he had.
I just had this argument about content on my last podcast. Common Knowledge with DJ L Spade. Watch that. But we was talking about rapper content because it's always an argument about we talking about killing the ops and it's all this violence in the music. And I've always said once the situations change in the hood and people go to college, and you're gonna see the music change. Like, and that's what's happening now. So I love to see like young people embracing something more than just street, because content has to change.
Word. You know, and one of the reasons I don't listen to a lot of trap is not because I'm like vehemently against it, or I feel like, you know, cats that come from that life have every right to make that type of art, but I do feel like a lot of cats. I grew up in the 90s where gang violence was going crazy and my city was crazy. I know a lot of cats that gravitated towards that because of the glorification of it.
It's an action movie.
You know what I mean?
That's all it is. It becomes an action thriller.
People do that. You know, I watch MMA and my 40-year-old ass be like, man, I'll whoop motherfucker's ass right now.
No, you can't. Like,
I watched Logan Paul fucking beat up the god Anderson Silva, and I was like, yeah, I could take Anderson now. You know, I'll just be tripping. But, you know, Mavi is just deep for his age. Maybe we just depressed because the tree's depressed and the sea's depressed. The only thing we seen is death. He's dope, man. I fucking like this kid.
Check
and
the
he's not
album
even
out.
a kid, man.
Check it out.
100%. A really enjoyable album. It got a lot of play from me, more than I give some of the other artists that we listen to on this. It's been going hard for me on repeat, several tracks for the last 3 weeks since it dropped, 4 weeks or whatever. So yeah, Mavi, I would recommend this album to somebody that likes Logic. I would recommend this album to somebody that likes.
I see that.
I would recommend this album to somebody that likes. Yeah.
What? I would recommend this album to Mavi fans who are disappointed by this album on the first listen.
Word.
Because there's a lot here to unpack. And it is a repeat listen album, I think. I think a lot of the gems really, really shine through on like a closer listen. And also there's so much of it that it's insufficient to listen to it once or twice. There's, you know, especially lyrically, like he goes off on this. You could probably just keep reeling off lyrics from this album. I know you have a lot of notes down there. And it's like every track.
Napkin, I clean myself up. Yeah.
Every track.
There's
Like
so you can
5 or
see where
6
I was.
moments where I'm like, yo, this guy's like going off. He's like rapping. And yeah, I would recommend if on first listen you didn't much care for this, go back and give it another listen because it's a real grower in my opinion.
Staying on theme with you guys, you know who I recommend this to? I recommend this album to people who are upset with Rap Fiera's album.
Okay.
Like,
with Rory?
Yeah, with Rory. Because here's the thing. That last Rory album, I saw hints of genius. And I thought it could have been good if it had like more drums. And this one had more drums and better production. So
He is poetic.
yeah, it's like on the same vein of like Mr. Rap Fiera.
We'll get there. We'll get
who
there.
will rap
You could
forever.
call him. I think you could just call him Rory.
Well, shout out to Rory, man, because you did hard on that last album review. But like seriously, I think
Rory's
you would love
ill.
this.
Yeah, but
I love Rory.
yeah. Can't take your seat at the table because the stool is up too high. I see when niggas get famous, the revolution in
It's
them
a Rory
die.
bar.
I mean, yeah.
It's a Rory bar.
Yeah, word, man. I mean, yeah. Secret House Against the World, Mavi, Laughing So Hard It Hurts. Support local and independent hip hop.
I'm back, bitch. You thought I was gone, didn't you? Nah. I'm still here. Yeah.
Optimism.
I was happy for a second. Like, he gone.
Yeah,
They
word.
got rid of him. I'm back.
Yeah, man. Let rappers die of natural causes, man.
Stop anti-Semitism in hip-hop, please.
Yo, that shit is wild because like that shit is wild because like black people was Egyptians, black people were Native Americans, now black people the Jews. I'm not saying now because I know black Israelites since I was in high school type of shit, but come on, man. Do better.
Aliens too.
Oh, word. Oh yeah. Shout out to Dr. Malachi Z. York L. out there in jail.
We were green.
You know about the white people who live in Hollow Earth? Yo, man. Shit is crazy.